The next component that we're going to install is our resistor, okay? And we want to bend this a little bit so that it will fit, okay? Just like that will be just fine, okay? And we are going to place this starting in hole 45, and we're going to push that in down into that hole, and then the other end will go into position number 40. Just like that, okay? So as you can see, I've got it in position 45 and position 40. Next, we need to put in our thermistor. And you can see that I bent the legs out just a little bit, and we're going to start by putting this into 40 and 35. Now it doesn't matter which way this goes, okay? You could turn this around and it would be just fine. Some components are very particular about the direction that you plug them in, but the resistor and the thermistor can work either way. So we've installed our thermistor and resistor, and now our next step will be to put together a couple of the wire connections. Next, I want to make a couple of electrical connections with some of the wires that we have, the wire connectors. And we're going to start off with a couple of red connectors and a couple of black connectors for connecting to the thermistor here, as well as connecting to the other side of the resistor. And then on our potentiometer, we're going to go with a red and black as well. So let's switch over to our other view and let's walk through. So here we are with our breadboard, and we're going to start with a red wire, and we're going to plug the red wire into 35, and then the other end will go into the red bus down below here, okay? Next, we need to put in a black wire, and we're going to go over to 40, and we'll push that in, and then we'll go and we'll plug the other end of the black wire into the blue bus, just like that, okay? Let's move on to our potentiometer. So again, we're going to plug into, and this is actually, I think it's 56 is the connection, because here's 55 and we're plugging into 56. So I'm going to plug into 56, and then I'm going to plug into the red bus, and I can plug into any one of the holes here on the red bus, because remember, they're all interconnected. So there we go, we plug that in, and now I've got a black conductor again, and the black conductor goes into 60 and then into anywhere on our blue bus. And there we go. We've got our first connections. Next, we're going to be making connections to the microprocessor board for both our potentiometer as well as our thermistor and resistor combination. Next, we're going to make connections from our potentiometer here with the yellow wire over to our microprocessor at A0, and then from our thermistor resistor combination, and we're going to go with a green wire over to A1. All right, so let's take a look at our actual project. And there it is. So we're going to take our yellow wire, and we're going to plug one end into, I believe it is 58 there, right in the middle between the red and the black. And then we're going to go over to A5, and we're going to plug that right in there. Next, we're going to take a green wire, and on 40, sorry for hitting the camera, on 40, plug that in there, and then plug in the other side to A4. Okay, so that's into our microprocessor. So there you go. All right, let's see if we can improve the color on this a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so those are our connections between our potentiometer to the microprocessor and from our thermistor resistor into the microprocessor as well. Now we're going to make a couple of power connections between our microprocessor and our breadboard. So I'm going to basically get two leads. These are longer ones. This is a red and a black. And first, we're going to plug into the black into the ground here. This is the third pin on this. And I'm going to go over and plug it into anywhere on our blue bus on the breadboard. So I'm going to put it right there. Okay. So that's the black wire. Next, we've got a red, and that's going to plug in right next to our black. And that's 5 volts. And that's going to go anywhere on our red bus over here. Okay. Okay, now we're going to make a couple of power connections between our microprocessor and the breadboard. And I'm going to use two connectors, a black and a red, and we'll start with the black. So I'm going to take the black and I'm going to plug it into the third pinhole here on this group of connectors, and this is to ground, GND. Okay, and I'm going to take the other end and I'm going to plug that into anywhere on our blue bus. Okay, next we're going to do the red connector, and we'll plug that into the pin position right next to our black, and that's 5 volts. And we're going to take the other end and we're going to go and plug it into anywhere on our red bus. So there are our power connectors to the breadboard. Okay, moving on. Next, we're going to connect our liquid crystal display unit right here. And unlike some other display units, this one is very easy to connect, and in fact only has 4 connection points. And we're going to start with connecting up the ground and the voltage in. So if you look at these pins right here, let me see if I can get it so that you can read that. Hey, you can probably read it right there. So the first one is ground. The second is voltage in, okay, or power in. And then we've got our data, which is the third, and then the fourth is the clock signal. So I'm going to take some of these connectors. This is a combination male and female wire connector, and I'm going to connect my green onto the first pin, which is your ground, and then my blue I'm going to connect onto the second connector, which is going to be voltage in. And on the other sides of these, green is going to go into our blue bus over here, and our blue is going to go into the red bus. Okay. Our next two connectors will be for data and for what they call clock. So gray is going to be for the data, and that's the third pin here. Okay. And then our black is for the clock. And these are going to go into our processor on pins A4 for the gray and A5 for the black. So I'm going to put those right there, and then A5 for the black. And you see those right there. Okay. So those are now our display connections, and we can move on to our motor and fan, which we'll do next. So the next connection we want to make is to our fan. And here's our fan with a small DC motor and some fan blades. And then our connections. All right. We've got a red and a black lead. So we are going to take our red lead and we are going to stick it into the socket for 5 over here on the other side of the processor. Okay, so right here. Okay, so that's connection 5. And then we're going to go and we're going to put our black lead into our blue bus. Okay, over on our breadboard, and we are now connected. So we now have all of our connections made for all of our components on our personal cooling system.